Why buy your next vehicle from Community Motors of Mason City?
Great service from 3 locations: Community in Monroe, Community Motors Westside, and Mason City Ford. 10 new franchises and hundreds of vehicles to give you more choices. Plus, Community offers an exclusive 3-3 warranty on pre-owned vehicles and 10-year, 250,000-mile warranty on new. Need more reasons why? Stop or visit CommunityAutoGroup.com.
Because nobody beats a community deal, nobody.
Just wanted to offer you an opportunity to have some additional discussion on what you're thinking since our last meeting in terms of bringing this forward, either one of these forward to the community, and timing, and what your thoughts are.
I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the economic community based on what's going to happen in November. I know Christy Vilsack was in Rotary today and talked about the amount of capital that's sitting out there not invested because tax breaks aren't permanent. And a lot of that could go forward to jump-starting the economy, but it's kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. So having this after November, I think we have a much clearer picture on what's happening with the economy. What are your thoughts?
Do you mean have the discussion after November, or have the choose a levy?
If we're going to do something, and I think we have to do something, definitely nothing before everything is settled out on that national scene. So I think you said January was the soonest.
That'd be February.
February.
And then the next one would be April.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of things that you can do, you know, to make sure that you could determine if you brought this to the voters that you want to perhaps put in an oversight committee. You could pull from areas that people could see those dollars and how they're being spent. Could be a board member with Ramona perhaps, or Hal or myself, along with members of the community. You could put together an oversight committee that would be, you know, sort of watching how that money is spent. And I think it, again, school finance is not like your checkbook. You know, it is not like your savings account and your checking account. When you run out of money in your savings account and your checking account, you go to your savings account and you can spend it on the same thing you normally spend things on. School districts are, you have a general fund, and there are things in general fund that you, and then you have a physical plant and equipment levy, and you have your local option sales tax money, and those are different buckets. And you don't get to put sales tax money on salaries. You don't get to put HEPL money for people's salaries, and vice versa. So those are, I think those are the things that are difficult for people to understand. And public education is for all children. And part of living in a community is that you're part of the public and you all pay taxes. Whether you're renting a home and you pay money to your landlord, who then is paying taxes on that, you're essentially helping to pay the taxes in the community. Or whether you own a home. So I think making sure that if you brought the physical plant and equipment levy, remembering that the last 2 years it was $15.11 per thousand. Next year it's $13.32. That even with $1.34, you'd still be at $14.66, which is still lower than it has been the last 2 years. So that although it's an increase in the tax, it's not at the level of $15.11. I think when you consider the instructional support program levy, that one is the only levy that can help support the general fund. And if we're worried about the general fund, then the instructional support levy is one that can be used to help support paying for some people in this process. but it also can be used to buy technology and materials and textbooks, like the K-6 adoption that we just did of $250,000. An instructional support program would help to support purchasing of instructional materials. You could think creatively about, and I think you just need to be thinking about this. We could think creatively about that as well, which is, and remember, that's the instructional support program levy is a tax on a tax. It's a surtax. So if you don't, and it comes off your income tax, if you don't pay any income tax, you don't get assessed anything. So if your income tax on that one line item is 0, there's nothing assessed. There is a requirement that $1 has to come, or a percentage has to come from property. That's $1. So $1 of that would be from property. You could do something like, from the board table, say, well, we wanted to do, because you have the ability still to pass something at the table for up to 5 years at any percent, but no longer. But you could say, we're only going to do this for 2 years, and then we're going to reassess it. Or we're only going to do it for 1 year. We want to see how it's spent. Just give us 1 year, and then we'll come back and maybe do it another year. You could choose 5 years. You could choose to take it to the voters. So I think you have myriad of choices in how you approach the instruction support program. And again, when we talked about technology, we could do an oversight committee for the instruction support program. And people want to watch how that money is spent, by all means. Some thoughts to think about and things I've been thinking about.
I like the committee idea. I think anytime you have the public involved, it's the best way to do it. And I think everybody would feel more comfortable having a say in it. If you look at the PEPL, we have, was it 300 and...
We've taken about
$350,000 every year. $320,000 every year that we can spend on building repairs. That's for the whole district. Mm-hmm. And I know Todd has previously given a list of all the things that need to be done at some point. Of course, those could be, just like at home, you prioritize and do what needs to be done first. The $300,000 won't go very far. If something major breaks, like a boiler or
like the air conditioner that went out were they on top of Hoover today?
Yeah. So if we just had to choose one, what's your opinion on which one would be the most important? If we just picked one and did.
I think there's really a couple things to think about. One is you're the only 4A district in the entire state that doesn't have an instruction support program money. There's 13 districts out of 360 some. And we're one of them that doesn't have an instructional support program. And that is, that helps your general fund. That helps your general fund. I think you have to think about the impact of sales tax, because you have now bonded out to 2029 for all the sales tax money coming in to pay for what's going on at the high school and John Adams campus now. Once you hit the end of that 2-story, we're done. There's no more money going into that place unless you use the PEPL fund for that. There's nothing to improve the gym, to put new bleachers in, unless you have that physical plant equipment levy money. There's no money to put on to add an additional gym. There's no, we don't go after, we have a pool that probably needs to be renovated, or we have a new pool that's still been in the mix. So how do you get to those other things that are a need in the community and for kids? So this is tough. This is not going to be easy. This is not an easy decision. The district has relied on, and I think the other part is the community supported a physical plant, voter-approved physical plant and equipment levy prior. It was when the sales tax money went in and you said, and I think the board said, well, let's see how this goes, if we can just make that work using sales tax money only, because sales tax money comes from everybody that lives with any, that comes in to shop. I mean, that's just how you're paying for things at the checkout, you know, which has been a wonderful thing. And I think we've been smart about applying for some grants as well, and we continue to look for those things. But so it's hard for me to say which one.
And I'm not saying one's not more important than the other, because they're both equally important. And it would be nice to have had that ISL years ago. You know.
Yeah, if we'd had it,
we tried.
It would have been, over time, we would have had $8 million more to spend on kids.
I think another thing with the PEPL is that we were fortunate with a lot of the grants, like the Harkin grant. You know, you had to have the PEPL funding to have a match. So like some of the grants we had to match, and we were able to do that because we had the money left over from the PEPL fund before. And that's one of the things that they look at, and you get points for that, is whether or not your district, whether or not the taxpayers are willing to step up to the plate and support the district. And that's, I think you get 10 points for that if you have passed the PEPL. Which doesn't seem significant now, but in the past it really has helped us.
Does a tax yield results? My contention would be, yeah, it's an investment in human capital. It's an investment in human capital. What are we out to do? Well, you got a lot of people in this district, as we pointed out here earlier, that are in a position where they are very frustrated, they're very unhappy, their level of income. But one of the things that we've got to do is we've got to take a look at what kinds of things are going to bring people in. You know, what kinds of things are going to, and an investment in human capital in these kids and their work skills is a way. Now the problem is you can't say, well, I'll invest X number of dollars here and we're going to get X results over here. You can't do that. It's an immeasurable. But the point is, when you spend money on school, all you got to do, and let's not let facts get in the way of how we feel sometimes, but all you got to do is take a look after the Second World War. Why did we rocket to the 1950s and into the 1960s where we thought we could throw, you know, we get this egalitarianism? Well, one of the things was called the GI Bill. And it was a huge investment in human capital. And, you know, I pay taxes too. I'm on fixed income. And yeah, because of my bias, obviously, 38 years here, I do think it's important. Do I think money has been poorly spent? Yeah, but I can't do anything about what went on 30 years ago or 20 years ago or 10. What I care about is these kids, maybe someday grandchildren, doubt it right now, but you know, these kids are in a position where they have skills, and we're in a position to provide them. Everybody's going to say, I pay way too much in taxes, my neighbor doesn't pay nearly enough. Okay, kind of a politics of envy. Everybody's going to say the school district spends too much money, except on what I think is important. Personally, I would go forward with a PEPL. Definitely PEPL. That's where I'd come down. Instructional support. You take a look at it, and again, that's a tough sell. To me, fixing buildings and fixing equipment is a pretty easy choice.
The upside of the instructional support is that can come from a surtax on income tax.
Mm-hmm.
And for the person whose evaluation went down, if it's not coming from property tax, it doesn't matter. If you don't file income tax, you don't pay the surcharge tax.
Mm-hmm.
So no tax is palatable, but would we have a better chance of getting support on an income surtax than property tax?
Better educate some people.
It's harder
It's
to
tough.
understand.
It's
Boy,
tough. I mean,
it's
people
an
thought
education.
the first couple times around, they thought their income tax was going up 10%. It's like, no, it is the tax on the tax you pay. And if you don't pay tax, you don't pay the surcharge. So yeah, we need time and we need a robust educational program. But I just think that income tax, because everything you hear is property. So that,
It would probably, if you're talking about fair, it would definitely be fair.
Yeah.
We're taxing income, we're not taxing
Yeah.
necessarily something like property that's gonna go up or down depending upon level. I don't have any problem, but again, our problem is education. You can you can do a job of letting people see mortar and brick, or, a flat roof always leaks in Iowa. But, so you're asking where would I come down if we have to make a choice between them? Ideally, you'd have both of them, and I can understand that, but this isn't an ideal world, and we've got some practicalities. I tend to favor the Petal. That's where I guess I'd come across. So,
Ramona, can I ask a question? I know that the max is $1.34 that the voters could approve,
Correct.
and the total maximum would be $1.67, right?
that's per thousand.
Per thousand.
Okay.
So that's the total on fiscal planning equipment levy. Would you have to go to, you can either do 67 cents or you can do $1.34, you can't do like $1?
I don't think so. I'd have to check into that.
Because I'm thinking, okay, if we're at 13.32, if you went to the voters with both things and it never was higher than, it didn't get higher than 15.11, and you had both, and you said we'll put oversight in, we want to do this for 3 years, and if it was still under the 15.11,
That'd be a lot more understandable, easy for us to explain, and easier for people to take. I mean, nobody wants to raise taxes.
no, I don't think you.
We don't want to
I
raise our own taxes.
No.
But we also are at these meetings and at this table twice a month, every month out of the year, not just once in a while, or if people get upset about one thing, but we're here all the time and we hear what the details are. So it's a matter of educating people, and if we can understand it in a way that we can explain it easily, and it doesn't raise anybody's taxes any higher than what they are right now,
Which is 15.11.
that sure would be a lot better, I think, for everybody. And have a committee like you mentioned.
You're right, the education part is the part of it. What's frustrating for me is that having been on the board a long time and having done some of these things is that I never had anybody come up to me and say, thanks for lowering my taxes 6 years in a row, which we did back 10 years ago. Every year we lowered the levy, year after year after year, the levy either stayed the same or went down. Everyone said, well, our taxes go up every year. No, they didn't. I take people, bring their tax statement, show it to me where their taxes went to the school. They don't want to talk about the facts, like Scott said, they don't confuse them with the facts. That's the frustrating part, is that we were good stewards of the money, we lowered taxes, we lowered taxes, we lowered taxes. Now we're trying to raise them back up to still lower than they were 10 or 12 years ago, but where they were at 2 or 3, wherever it was years ago. And now it's all the bluebirds are out again, forgetting all the money we saved them, or we gave back, from their levy from years, in the last few years. That's just kind of frustrating, is that, we were trying to be good stewards, passed the penny sales tax and lowered the tax rates, and people didn't pay nearly as much in taxes for years as they did previously. And that's just forgotten. That's the frustrating thing, but that is what it is.
Well, and I think the other part is the valuation of property has gone up.
For some people.
For some people, the cost of living has gone up. Everything's gone up because I grew up in a restaurant where a cup of coffee was a nickel, and when my dad wanted to raise it to a dime, and you could have unlimited refills, when he wanted to raise it to a dime, there were difficulties in the community, So I think that nobody likes to see an increase in money for any reason, but there are also things about. It really goes back to your investment in the human capital and the future. We're investing in the future lives of our children. Our children. They're not somebody else's kids. They're all ours. They're all ours.
Let me piggyback on that. Don't we want it better?
We do.
We do want it better
Yeah.
for those kids. And one thing that's proven that you can do to put kids in a position where they'll be better off is increase the skills that they have. How can we best do that? We'd like to harken back to the old days, but you know, like I bought myself, I shouldn't say bought myself, my wife and I each bought Kindles. I'm gonna take it back, by the way. I've had a heck of a time with it, but it's a technology. Now, you know, maybe I should be investing in my human capital in regards to that, but we've got to do it for kids. I think that's the thing that gets overlooked. You know, you sit there and you start talking about personalities and stuff, but we're trying to do a better job of putting kids in a position in a global market where they can compete. They can compete better, so they don't have to be, you know, we can't change all the society, but by God, we can make our attempt here and make a stand here.
Okay. That gives me some things, so maybe in August I can bring you some ideas of some possible scenarios of what it might look like if you went with both, if you went with one or the other. Keeping that 1511 as don't go any higher than that, try not to even get there. We know that $1.34 would take it to $14.66. And if you have to put $1 on the ISL, then that takes it to $15.66 and that's over. So I don't want to go there.
Not just $1 on property tax, not
I know.
no.
Yeah.
Not income.
No.
Maybe we can make one of our committee of the wholes, or maybe a separate meeting that's just a planning session for this, and invite the public to come with questions. We might find that we have some other good ideas out there that we haven't even tapped into. But really kind of go through maybe some of the questions and answers, and maybe helpful for us, include our communications committee, and that would help us maybe brainstorm too.
That's good. Okay. Thank you for taking that.
Which is a good segue into announcement and board report. And with the community.